Good afternoon. I'd like to call the study session meeting of January 24th, 2024 to order. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Lamb.
Here.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Here.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ross.
Here.
Mayor Carnevale.
Here. The city clerk, are any changes to the agenda?
I have no changes, Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Charlie. City clerk, will you please read the statement of participation?
Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you're a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the city clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the City Council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the city clerk for distribution. And I believe, you would like to speak during this time, correct? For public comment? Okay. Oh, are you speaking?
Locked and loaded here.
Okay.
If I get a
I apologize. I thought it was general public comment. Okay. So I do not have any requests to speak forms for general public comment, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to provide general comments, now is the time. And I see no hands raised.
Study session, item A, Resident Study Committee recommendations. Do we have a staff city manager? Charlie?
I'm providing a report from the Resident Study Committee. For a little bit of background, Measure K, in August of 2022, you all referred Measure K to the voters. It was a single-purpose question, which under California law, therefore required a supermajority of 67% for approval. It would have levied a property tax of 15 cents per square foot on residential properties and other amounts on multifamily and non-residential properties. It would have supported Cathedral City's annexation into the Desert Recreation District. And although it received majority support of about 55% from Cathedral City voters, it still failed due to the supermajority requirement. So when the strategic plan was developed about a year ago, and because of the strong community support for providing parks and recreation services in the city, in your adopted plan, which was adopted in April of 2023, the following action item was in there: to develop a plan to address the need for funding for parks and recreation services through the DRD and other resident priorities, including streets, and work toward a potential funding measure in 2024. So, to that end, I appointed a committee to review unfunded needs in the community. The committee was made up of a cross-section of residents of Cathedral City, and I had 11 residents who participated by attending at least one of the meetings. And a number of the committee members actually are here in the audience today. Danny Lee, Sue Townsley, Richard Martinez, Terry Hargreaves, Rick Saldivar. They were faithful committee members that came just about every time. And the other names are listed in your staff report. The meetings were held October of 2023 through January of 2024. And this is the dates when the meetings were held and the basic title. I'll go through each one for you individually, so I won't read these off right now. So October 23rd, the topic was budget and finance. And Kevin Biersack was our presenter that night, and he went over much of the same materials that you all saw when you approved the most recent biennial budget back in the spring, about a year, a little less than a year ago, May of 2023. It showed where the revenues come from, the various financial sources, both taxes, fees, and others, where the money is spent, allocated to the various departments in the city. And I think a lot of the discussion focused on the portion of the budget that is obligated to services. And of course, services are provided through a combination of city staff and contract, labor is probably the wrong word, contract service providers that supplement city staff. And between those two combined, it's about 80% of our budget goes to that. And then we discuss the portion of the budget that goes to police and fire services. And like virtually every city in the country, the majority, the largest piece of our budget goes to our public safety services. And I think in the current fiscal year, we're right around 50% on that, which actually is a reduction from where it was a few years ago because we made a conscious effort to beef up our staffing in development services and other areas where we were unable to keep up with the demand. Then we spent some time talking about the effect of Tropical Storm Hilary emergency expenditures on the budget. As you know, we've authorized some extraordinary expenditures there. So we went over that with the committee, and we also went over our belief and our hope that much of it is ultimately going to be reimbursable through FEMA. But it's never all of it. There is a percentage, about 6.75%, I think, of the total that falls on the city regardless. And when you're talking about millions of dollars of expenditures, even that percentage is a fairly large number. And there's also often, always, a time gap between when we have to spend the money, which we already spent for the cleanup of the dirt and all that, and when the reimbursement will come through. So we went over all of that with the committee as well, and that was our October 26th meeting. On November 16th, we were pleased to have guest presenters from the Desert Recreation District. Their executive director, Kevin Kallman, was there, as well as 2 or 3 people from his staff. And we went over the history of the annexation effort, which really predates Measure K by 5 or 6 years. Way back in the 16-17 time frame, we were in discussions with the Desert Recreation District to try to fashion a way that the Cathedral City could become part of the district. We are the only city that's either not in the district or has its own Parks and Recreation Department in the Coachella Valley. Palm Springs has their own. All the other cities, for the most part, are in the Desert Recreation District. We went over the outcome of Measure K, and it seems almost counterintuitive to residents that a vote could get 55% support and not pass. But that's due to the supermajority requirement, and that's because it was a single purpose tax. And so we discussed that. We also talked about the services that the Desert Recreation District can provide immediately upon annexation. And that's important because there are benefits that will accrue to the people of Cathedral City without having to wait for years for that to happen. And primarily, that's going to be they'll be able right away with a funding agreement with the city to take over the park's maintenance activities. Will benefit from the economies of scale that they achieve by having parks all over the entire valley that they take care of, and their Parks Ranger program that helps to minimize undesirable activities that are going on in parks and limit graffiti and vandalism and things like that we have a hard time keeping up with, although we do a pretty good job, and our graffiti contractor does a great job. Of course, we'd keep that in place. But the recreation classes and activities can start right away, even before we have our own community recreation facility, because we can use our parks. A lot of programming can be done outdoors in the parks. They have agreements often with schools where after-school programming and things like that can be done there. We have the community room at the library. We have even the study session room potentially here at City Hall that could be used to provide recreation classes. So those kind of things could start right away, and that was, I think, an important part of the discussion. And then we talked about the Community Recreation Center, the cost to develop one, how it would be programmed, the cost to program it. And of course, that's a big nut to crack, no matter how you slice it. But we looked at costs for a new construction, and it's going to depend on where it is, how you handle parking, things like that. We also looked at cost for an adaptive rehab of an existing building. And we have a number in the city that might work for that, either solo as a community recreation center, or in partnership with another organization that might share space in an even larger facility. So all those things are possibilities. Now that would take more time, of course, because you can't do a lot of the architectural, because you have to spend money to do the architectural work and the design work and things like that. You can't really do that now until we know whether we're going to have a funding source to cover that. And when I go over the budget implications of this later on, we'll show how those two areas, the construction and the operation of a recreation center, actually will accrue some savings in the early years while that design work and things is going on and you don't need all that funding. December 7th was the third meeting. The topic was streets and emergency medical services. And we had a presentation. By the way, all of the presentation materials that the committee saw were included as part of the packet. So if people are watching at home and want to see that, you go online to our agenda and all those presentation materials are part of it. We first heard from John Carella, our Engineering and Public Works Director, on the pavement management plan. And his presentation was very similar to what you saw earlier this fall. And it really highlighted the minimum, the limited street maintenance dollars that we have. We have $2 million a year, $1 million from SB1 and $1 million from our maintenance of effort. That's what's there every year. Now we supplement that with grant funding, which some years there's a lot of that, and some years there's hardly any. And Measure A and gas tax is sometimes available. So it's not quite as bad as saying we have $2 million and we need $10 million. But the pavement management plan indicated that to keep up with our streets, even without improving the current level of service, but to keep it from deteriorating, we need to be spending about $10 million a year. So that's concerning to everybody. And we had a fairly lengthy discussion about how do we determine which streets get that limited funding that's available and which have to wait. And it's sort of counterintuitive in a way that the worst street isn't always the one that gets done first. Because when a street is to the point where it needs to be completely reconstructed, the cost per linear foot or per mile or however you measure it is about 10 times what it is to do a slurry seal on a street that isn't quite in such bad shape. So sometimes the money goes to keeping the streets that aren't quite as bad from further deteriorating at the expense of ones that are already so far gone that it's going to take a complete reconstruction. We need to be able to address those streets, and everybody, I think, saw the need to be able to have more funding so that we can do that. Then we had a presentation by Fire Chief Mike Contreras on our emergency medical services. As you know, on any given day, 80 to 90% of the calls for service that our fire department receives are emergency medical calls. And he has developed what I think is an innovative plan to improve emergency medical response by implementing a fourth ambulance that would be staffed by 2 people that could, now that we have emergency medical dispatch, and we can determine through the call for service what's going to be the appropriate response to a different type of call. In many emergency medical cases, we could send the smaller 2-person unit, leaving the engine or the ladder truck in the station for those calls that then are going to require that. And it's also at a lower cost to send an ambulance with 2 people out on it as opposed to a fire engine with 3 people and then the ambulance goes with them. Yes, sir.
These same dispatchers do the dispatching for police and fire. They just got different training or additional training to do the medical dispatch.
That's correct. We put all of our dispatchers through emergency medical dispatch training. I believe last May it was completed, and so they're now all certified and competent to do emergency medical dispatch.
Thank you.
And since we stopped, I just have a question. Which station are you targeting for? What could be this potential extra ambulance?
I don't know which one it would operate out of. Do you?
He's this way.
Where is he? There he is. 2? Station 2, the main. It's the central station. That is our highest call volume station. And, you know, in theory, then that's available to go anywhere in the city, wherever there's a call that's the appropriate response for.
And just for those watching, that's the administration
Yeah.
building as well.
Yeah. I think I completed this slide. January 11th. This was a review of the needs and a discussion of committee ideas. So we reviewed the previous meeting topics and discussions. I asked the committee members if they had any ideas about how to help with funding some of these needs. And so we talked about grant funding, the limitations of grant funding and the benefits of it. And grants are great for one-time construction type purposes. For example, we got an $8.5 million grant to construct the Dreams Homes Park. Of course, as you know now, it actually cost more like $10.5 million, so we had to supplement that. But grants rarely will cover ongoing operating costs. So you can get a park built or conceivably even a new roadway constructed, but they're not going to pay for routine maintenance of either of those type of facilities. That always falls on us. We also talked about public-private partnerships, and I explained how the private sector does participate in construction of our roads in a couple of ways. We get exactions from developers when a roadway in front of their project is expanded or improved. They pay for that as part of the construction of their project. And every development in the city pays a transportation development impact fee. But both of those things only serve to deal with the initial construction of a project, not for ongoing maintenance. In fact, we're prohibited by law from using development fees for ongoing maintenance of our street facilities. That can only be for the construction of new facilities. So we talked about that. And then we discussed single-purpose tax measures because there was some interest. Well, could we just go back with another property tax just for parks and recreation and scale it differently and things like that? And of course, that would still require the 2/3 majority if it's a single-purpose tax, regardless of how big it is or what single purpose it goes for. So that led to discussion about a general purpose funding source, a general purpose tax, which would be, the proposal was for a 1/2-cent sales tax. We all call it sales tax. Technically, it's a transactions and use tax. And that is, we have the 1 cent already in place for that. That's been in, was originally approved by the voters in 2010, I think it was. And we have not asked for any, we've not implemented any type of tax increase since that time. It was extended in 2014 to keep it permanent as opposed to having a sunset, but there has been no increase since the original one was put in place. Some actually, and I told them I would tell you this, some actually voiced support for going higher. A 3/4 cent or a 1 cent increase, because clearly the needs are even outstrip what the 1/2 cent sales tax would produce. However, there was also discussion about the fact that, well, going with a 1/2 cent keeps us equal with where Palm Springs already is, so we don't have to deal with arguments about, well, we're going to be higher than other jurisdictions and things like that. And also, it happens to raise almost exactly what the property tax proposed in Measure K would have raised, about $5 million a year in both cases. So that's what they ultimately coalesced around. And we had really interesting and robust discussion about all of those topics during that meeting. So how would we apply that revenue if it went? Now, it does have to be general purpose, so it goes into the general fund, okay? And of course, the council each year, through the budget that you adopt, applies those funds. But we need to make certain commitments in terms of the intent to use those funds, and it has to be for multiple purposes. So we identified the DRD annex. These are all roughly equal. If you took the $5 million and divided it in 5 equal parts of $1 million each, this is roughly what you're looking at here. $1 million for the DRD annexation, the recreation services, and assumption of the park's maintenance. $1 million roughly for the operating costs for a community recreation center after it's built. Now, as I said earlier, that's not going to be required in the first couple of years. So that money could accrue to either offset some of the construction costs or would be available for other purposes during that time period. Same thing with debt service. We would have to issue some debt in order to construct a recreation center or rehab an existing facility, but you wouldn't issue the debt until you had the plans and the construction contract issued and everything and were ready to go, because you don't want to borrow money earlier than what you're going to actually need it. So that would accrue some savings over the first year or two as well. Additional funding for the street maintenance per the pavement management plan, and the addition of the 2-person medical response ambulance on each of the fire department's 3 shifts. Now, the nice thing about this, in my opinion, is it gives you a broad array of services that you're going to be able to improve for the people of the community, and it gives you a fairly simple, one of the committee members actually phrased this better than I could have. She said, we got to have our elevator speech on what we would tell people of the reasons for this, and it's going to provide parks and recreation services in the community, it's going to improve our maintenance of our streets and roads, and it's going to improve our ambulance response times. That's the sort of 3.
Charlie, that's all good and said, but how can we guarantee that? Can this money be put into an account? If it goes into a general fund and then a new council comes in, they can say, well, you know what, we're not going to use it for this, we're going to do something else.
Yes, and the committee asked about that, and it ultimately falls on the city council. Now, you all are answerable to the public, and what I told them, if you or a future council started applying it some different way, what they need to do is come down here and scream bloody murder. But we already have, and we would make this part of any measure, we already have a finance advisory committee that meets and reviews the existing 1-cent sales tax and certifies each year that it was used for the purposes for which it was intended. And I would anticipate using a structure like that to oversee the use of this funds. But we have to acknowledge that ultimately it falls on the city council to stay true to whatever we say during the campaign on this that we're going to do with it.
Should this pass, so when do you think you'd start seeing results of the tax increase come in 2005?
No, it'll be much sooner than, yes, it'll be in 2005, because the election would be in November of 2024. And Kevin and I just were going through the math in terms of the steps that have to happen the other day, and we believe it could be effective by April 1st of 2025.
Thank you.
Which sort of leads into the next steps. We'd like to hear from council and allow you all to have discussion on this today and provide direction. If there is a decision to proceed, we would need to do this spring a contract, and my recommendation would be that we do a contract for some public opinion polling. That helps inform what are the appropriate ways to package this and describe it, including recommendations on ballot language. We would also need a firm to help develop public information materials. Again, reflecting what you learned through some public opinion polling. We would need to do a formal agreement with the Desert Recreation District to transfer funding from the city, from the measure, to the DRD to provide for the services that they're going to be providing. And we would need to do that in a format that meets LAFCO requirements, because LAFCO, which is the agency that oversees annexations, and this would be an annexation into the Desert Recreation District, requires that there's evidence that there's the financial ability to pay for the services that we're going to be receiving from the district. Kevin Coleman and I have already met with LAFCO officials and discussed this type of approach to it, and it appears that that will be acceptable to LAFCO. Final action to refer a question to the voters would need to occur in June or July, and that will depend on your summer schedule, and I know we're scheduled to talk about that in a study session coming up in March. If you vacated meetings in July, then you would have to act on this in June, because there is an early August deadline to have all materials into the Riverside County for any questions. And then as on any tax measure, it's the voters that make the final decision. So that concludes my presentation. As I said, a number of the committee members are here, and I'd be happy to address questions to the extent that I'm able to do so.
Is there any council members that want to ask a question I got Raymond Gregory, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Charlie, for the presentation, and thank you especially to the committee for your work on this review. It sounds like it was quite extensive, and I'm pleased to see the result that has come back. I did have a little question, though. So you talked about this would still result, if it were to pass, in some type of an annexation into the Desert Recreation District. But when I looked at it, it looked almost like we would be contracting with the Desert Recreation District because the tax would be generating an amount of money annually, which could go up or down, that would go into the general fund, and then we would be paying the Desert Recreation District for specific tasks, and that looks like the cost of those would likely go up or down, but likely up with inflation and increase in their costs. Mm-hmm. So how is that an annexation into the district when we're basically just contracting them for specific services?
Well, it's a contractual agreement. I may have used the wrong words in saying that we're contracting for the services. It would basically be in a contractual agreement with the Desert Recreation District that we can annex into the district. And there's a benefit to the community beyond just taking care of the parks in that when they are actually residents of the Desert Recreation District, then all of the things that they provide are available at the lower resident rate. And so that's the real reason why it would benefit us to still have it as an annexation. But we would be contractually agreeing to provide a certain amount of revenue to them to offset the costs that they would incur by having us in the district and making those services available to our residents.
Okay, so I'm not going to try to harp on that tonight because it's still early. We're really just looking at whether we would like to move forward, but I would be very curious to see, and hopefully we would have some detailed discussion as to exactly how that would work, because it made more sense to me when you had a dedicated fund and these funds came and in fact, I know at one point it looked like they might just go to the district, mm-hmm. and the district would provide services, but this as a general tax is different. It's not dedicated, and a certain amount is not set out for each of the different functions. And even if we say were to move forward on having a community recreation facility, it kind of sounds like we would be borrowing that money ourselves, not the Desert Recreation District. So again, more detail maybe than we need to get into tonight, but I think that would need to be clearly spelled out. I could see what you're saying, that it would be beneficial for us to have at least an annexation-like relationship with them for our residents, and I certainly agree with that, but just a little bit
Well, that's one of the things that we can explore in more detail is what is actually required by LAFCO for an annexation, and can you achieve the same results contractually with the DRD, including the resident rates. And so as we develop the revenue sharing agreement with them, and bring that forward, those are good things that we'll need to hammer out in that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Gregory. Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Charlie, is there a sunset on this tax?
I think it would be in our best interest. Now, if we're gonna use debt financing, let's say we financed a community recreation center over 25 years, you'd want the sunset to we talked about this at the committee meeting too. You'd want the sunset to be 25 years so that you could retire all the debt before it went away. We may want to put a sunset on because of the California Business Roundtable initiative that they're putting forward to the voters requires, and my understanding is it requires sunsets on any local taxes that are put into place, and language in it makes it retroactive so that even if ours passed at the same time, it would still apply to that, and if they don't have a sunset in them, you have to go back and do it over. So I think it would be in our best interest, unless something happens, there is a measure on the ballot, I think, on March 5th that may affect that initiative. So unless something happens that makes it look like that's unlikely to occur, I think we hedge our bets by putting that on, but putting it long enough out that, it would cover the debt service schedule.
Okay. Now, if we do contract, let's say this were to happen, we all agreed upon to get it through and the voters approve it. Now, we signed a contract with the DRD. We're not happy with them. Can we terminate that contract?
Well, yes, and that we always put language in our agreements to protect us from things like that. We have to be legal, and they're legal. We'll need to work closely on that because it has to have some protections for us in circumstances like that, but it has to be strong enough to provide some assurance of the funding if we're going to do annexation as part of it. So we typically do that in our agreements, but that'll be a careful legal analysis that's required on that.
Okay. Some of the things that concern me about this measure or this tax is that we're coming into economic times that do concern people. We have inflation that is pretty much out of control right now. And I'm also afraid that the tax might actually drive businesses that want to open into our city away, and also, of course, residents that might see the tax being a little higher, even though it would be the same as the city of Palm Springs. Those are my concerns that I would definitely have to keep in mind as we continue these discussions. But the allocation of the amounts also, I know that $1 million will be a significant amount to our roads, but definitely council would have to discuss that and reallocate that a little bit, because I think we need a little bit more money to go towards our roads. But
And I think the committee members...
I like what's been going on. I just think that the reallocation and being a little concerned, and actually keep in mind that, as you mentioned, what happens in March, that we can continue this discussion.
And I think those are good points, and we talked about a lot of that in the meeting too, and I meant to put this in the presentation, forgot it. What a half cent means is a 50 cent cost on a $100 purchase. So that's what it means to our residents. Also, it's important to note that purchases at the grocery store for food items for preparation at home are exempt from the sales tax. That's one of the benefits of going to a sales tax as opposed to a property tax, which falls on every property from the most expensive to the smallest in the city, is the purchases at the grocery store are exempt from that. And so, I think those are some things that help. And I think there was broad agreement that we all agree we need more money than just $3 million a year for the streets. But it does offer the council opportunities to look in the rest of the general fund, because at freeing up some more money to put into streets that way. We have 2 employees right now that work in parks maintenance. We turn that over to the DRD. That gives us 2 more employees to put on street maintenance, which will help there. And we've been planning for years for the eventuality that might happen. And so there are some other tools at our disposal to better address streets, and everybody agrees, I think, with you, council member, that we need to do better there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you so much.
Hi. Very well, thank you.
It's nice to see you, Chief Contreras, because the first thing that I did after we talked this weekend was I talked to Charlie, and I can't give you that money. It has to go in general. No, I never intended to give you the money, but it had to go into general fund. So my first question for you is, if DRD is going to schedule some activities prior to the election, who's going to pay for that, and how much is it going to be?
No, they would be, this would be after, they would start providing classes and services after it was approved.
Okay.
But now, that being said, just like last summer, we'll be coming back with the agreement to operate the pool, so they'll be doing that in the meantime. And actually, we may be able to get some classes, even in advance of the April 1st date, simply because if we have a place and we can provide that at no cost to them to have them, the courses themselves are mostly done on a cost recovery basis, so that the fees that are charged for it recovers the cost of it.
Thank you. So if we're talking about sunsetting, then who pays for the ambulance operators once it sunsets?
Well, that's the problem with the sunset, and that's why, in general philosophical terms, I think sunsets are a bad idea on measures that support ongoing services. What I would anticipate is that prior to the actual sunset occurring, that the council and the residents at that time would need to come back with a measure to extend that. And maybe the environment will be different then. Maybe you don't have a California Business Roundtable initiative that you have to concern yourself with at that time. That is the downside of a sunset. You're correct at that, Mayor Pro Tem.
And just feeding off of that so that I can understand it and wrap my brain around it a little bit, what do you think the actual annual cost for 6 ambulance operators is going to be? I'm not asking to the penny.
Well, they wouldn't all just
round it
be ambulance operators, because they're going to have to be certified paramedics in order to go do these calls.
Even more expensive.
So we estimated that it was about $1 million.
Okay. And then the cost of the ambulance would be over several years, but what did you anticipate that cost would be?
I haven't factored in the cost to that, and we would probably finance that through our equipment replacement program.
Okay. And then, just a clarification, because I don't want people who are listening to this to think the worst of things. I just want to be really clear about this. Not everything that's purchased at a grocery store would be of no tax. It has to be groceries.
Food items.
Right,
So
so
your
if you-
toilet paper, your Tide, your things like that, you're going to
paying
pay it on,
tax.
as you do today.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure we said that so people didn't come back and say,
Yeah.
but you said, so.
No, it's food for
It's
consumption
not
at
just-
home.
yeah, that's right.
Actually, prepared meals. Some grocery stores have a little cafe in it and things like that. And
That's right.
if it's like a restaurant meal, that's going to be.
That's
yeah.
taxed as well,
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
You're very welcome. Councilman Gutierrez?
That's all right. I'm Rita Lamb. Anyway, I have no questions, and the specific items that were brought up, especially about whether this tax would be have a sunset date, is important to me. And as we go forward, that'll, we'll get more in the weeds about that. But the overarching, my commitment is that, we're committed to moving Cathedral City forward in every possible way. And these three, whoever came up with the elevator pitch about having a recreation center, having our fire department expand its services, and having our roads fixed. I mean, my God, we at our last strategic planning thing, we said all roads lead to Cathedral City, and we have some of our roads really looking wonderfully, and that is just an absolute delight. So these are 3 high priority items that we have an opportunity to move this project forward in this package. I think that would be the way to go. And I have some, concerns, as everybody else voiced, about, how to do it and whether there's a sunset, and, if council persons change and their strategies and goals change, what happens, and all those questions from the community. But I am very looking forward. I hope the folks that participated in the committee have an opportunity to speak, and will share with us their thoughts about, being in the heart of the community and what the feedback is. Because this time has come again and again and again, and our families and residents and businesses deserve it. So, thank you.
Mr. City Manager, just a clarification. At the sunset of this measure, if it were to pass, to actually extend it, it would have to go back to the voters
That's
to
correct.
extend it. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's similar to what happened when the original TUT was imposed in 2009 or 2010. It had a 5-year sunset on it. So in 2014, again, involving a citizen committee, there was another measure put on the ballot to extend that, and that had to be approved by the voters.
But not necessarily, we have to have a sunset, correct?
Under our laws and under state laws as they exist today, you do not have to have a sunset, and we do not have a sunset on our 1 cent TUT. My concern is there's some gray area now because of this initiative that's on the ballot, the California Business Roundtable item, that might negate measures that were passed that did not have a sunset
Okay.
on it.
All right, that's clear. All right, thank you. Council, anyone else? Do we have any members of the public that wish to comment on this item?
Shelley Kaplan?
Thank you, Charlie.
Very good presentation, Charlie. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I'm going to start by congratulating Mark on his second term as mayor, and
Thank you, Shelley.
Nancy as Mayor Pro Tem. And let me thank you all for your time and effort that you put into being members of the council, since I know from my own personal experience how much work it is and that it takes to handle the responsibility, and it's a lot. This afternoon, I want to express my support for the recommendation of the Resident Study Committee to establish a vote this coming fall to approve the 1/2 cent sales tax increase. I also want to thank the study committee members for their effort in reaching this recommendation, and I want the council to know that I'm willing to work with a group of citizens to help support this recommendation to a successful outcome. We clearly need a full recreation program for our youth, and from the pavement management plan, it's clear we need more resources to address our pavement repair and replacement needs. And who can argue with the need for an additional ambulance when over 75% of the fire department calls are for medical assistance? And as someone turning 80 this year, I have a vested interest. But I also want to strongly support the need for a community center, which I have supported since I was on council. We're the only city in the valley without a community center, and as one of the largest cities, we desperately need one. It needs to be an intergenerational center that represents the diversity and resident support needs of our city. It can help provide recreational and wellness activities for our youth, as well as for our families and for our seniors. As a member of the Cathedral City Senior Center Board, I want to specifically argue for the need for this center to help provide the needs for our seniors. Historically, the Senior Center has existed since 1980, and I became a board member while I was still on council. But before the Senior Center moved to Tierra del Sol, it used the city's facilities on Route 111 across from City Hall. And at that time, the city contributed the majority of its operating costs. Those buildings, of course, have now been torn down. In its present location, it has about 4,500 square feet. But to use an old adage, it's no longer your father's senior center. Its budget is more than 4 times what it was only 5 years ago. And its programs, focus, inclusion, and support services have grown by leaps and bounds. Its weekly food bank program would now cost over $1 million a year just to replicate it elsewhere. And it's providing food security for over 400 families weekly. I want to make sure the council understands the import and importance of the center to the senior citizens of Cathedral City, who make up over 20% of our population. And while the center has expanded its programming dramatically, it still cannot meet more than a percentage of the seniors' population needs, given its space limitations. I'm sure Jeff and Vic will provide more information when they speak. I believe an intergenerational community center is necessary for our city, and that it should provide additional program space for the senior center, and that some of these resources of the sales tax increase can provide will allow for such a facility. I hope you will agree and support this recommendation. Thanks for considering the matter.
Thank you, Shelley.
Well, howdy. Thanks for letting us come up together. I'm Jeff. This is Vic. We run the Senior Center. And I guess the first thing I'll do, since Shelley already congratulated the new mayor pro tem, is I'll just thank all of you once again, because to the person, you guys speak well of us all over the community. You send people our way. You tour our food bank. You are just, it couldn't be any more supportive. And of course, you come to our big party, and we really appreciate it. So thank you for that. And I will let Vic start, and then I'll close with a few comments.
Okay, thanks. So, yeah, we just want to, we came here today to really express our support for this, these recommendations as well. And a couple points I want to make, you know, well, first of all, the need in this city is tremendous. And the reason we're finding this out is when Jeff started running the center, and then I joined about a year after that, we realized that our center did not represent the city. We had zero Hispanic membership, zero Hispanic programming. So we intentionally set out to change that. We hired a bilingual outreach coordinator that sits out in about 29 different community areas, community centers and housing projects, not just in Cathedral City, a couple in Palm Springs and a couple in Rancho Mirage, but the majority of them here. And she sits there and she understands what their needs are. She builds trust one person at a time, invites them into our center, then helps them navigate the resources that they need. Quite frankly, we're out of space because we have increased our programming by, well, 40% of our programming is in Spanish now, and over 40% of our membership is now Hispanic. And before we run out of time, I also want to mention too that our food bank has grown incredibly large because of the significant need. And I don't know if a lot of that's from COVID or if there's other issues involved, but you know, we, like Shelley was saying, a couple months ago, we had our first Monday where we served over 400 families. And these aren't just seniors, they're families, they're young mothers coming in with their children. And,
Grandparents raising grandkids. And any number of folks. So we all know the importance of a community center, but I'll tell you that by default, we are becoming that. We're serving intergenerational, we're serving families that all live under the same roof. We don't have place for kids. We have 4 or 5 kids there on any given day, and we've created a little coloring corner and have some toys, but with a bigger facility, we could be so much more to the community. We have talked to Kevin when Measure K was coming up. We had a great plan for them to manage our building from 6 to 9 before we all come in, and then from 6 at night till 9 or midnight, depending on what kind of facility we had, and weekends. So we're very familiar with what they offer, and we could pair well together. We're facing a lot of pain points right now. That food bank costs us less than $300,000, but it provides $1 million worth of service because we get $482,000 worth of food donated from about 8 different organizations. So we can leverage $1 donated into 3 to provide a lot more food, and it's all provided by volunteers. So we don't pay for anything but the lights, the air, the van, the insurance, the gas. We deliver to 25 individuals. We have a lot going on there. We have the management experience to help facilitate a community center, and we definitely have the need. So, and we also could, in an interesting public-private partnership and a management operating agreement, we could help with finance, because while we can't build our own building, we can raise a few million to build it out, specifically the way this town needs it, and also operate it. So that's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick Saldivar, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for all that you do. Charlie, thank you so much for inviting me on this committee. And it was really interesting to, work out the dynamics on how we came up to this decision. And there was a lot of pools and there was a lot of, put-ins. But that is what we came up with. And nobody likes taxes. But when Charlie explained it to us, and I think I kind of said, well, you have to talk to me like I'm a, 3-year-old. What is the penny count for each dollar? And it wasn't a lot. Then I went and did my own little peer research through my school at GCU on, purchase price taxes. And there was a lot of pros and there was a lot of cons, but the pros way outweigh the cons, you know? You go buy something, you really don't feel it, especially if it's a half a cent. But the, you know, outcome, the impact that it has, it will be very, very beneficial to our community. Mayor Mark hit it right on the nail, though. I think some of us brought it up, that how do we make sure that that takes integral, that money doesn't get lost in the general fund or that another council uses it for other things. And I think Charlie came up with a great idea that if it does pass, if we go forward, that we put an oversight committee just for those funds, you know, and really put a committee where the streets are going to be fixed. Somebody whose street is debilitated and, you know, ruined, have that person be on that committee. Have part of our senior committee, senior population be on that committee to make sure that the right, you know, allocations for, you know, the district, you know, and the recreations is getting. So if this does happen, I would like to echo Charlie's to, you know, really think of saying, okay, if we go forward, let's put together a committee that, you know, will last through the years of this, you know, tax that would serve the people. That way it never gets lost. And if it gets lost, like I have in my notes, we will scream bloody murder. Thank you.
I do not have any other requests to speak forms for this item, but if you are a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment on this item, please raise your hand.
Hey, council, any last words?
You gonna kill us?
No?
Mayor?
Any last words?
Mayor, could I add one thing that I forgot to say? Danny just reminded me that one of the other benefits of a sales tax as opposed to a property tax, which we did discuss extensively, is that to a certain extent, non-residents help pay with the use of a sales tax whenever they spend their dollar in our community. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Thank you.
Well, you know, a half cent to me is not really, to me, that much. You know, hearing what Rick just said and Jeff, and of course the needs from what Shelley just mentioned on the fire department. You know, if there's going to be a sunset on here, I don't have a problem going a full cent if that's what it takes. It's kind of paying it forward, and then when the sunset finishes, you get a little relief off that, but you're paying it forward right now. But the city, you know, we do need some roads. We do need to upgrade our center. We want that. I mean, we're so bad. I was at 1,000 Palms the other day. Charlie and I went to 1,000 Palms. They got a beautiful community center. We don't, you know. So, you know, I don't have a problem going a full cent. I don't know what the council feels on that. If we want to discuss what you feel on it, I'd like to hear what's your thoughts. What direction are we going to give Charlie and staff? Are we going to go a half cent, 3/4, or 1 cent? I'll start with you, Councilman Gregory.
Okay, thank you. So, I understand what you're saying, and the need is great, but I do think it's problematic for us to get out ahead of our neighbors. And if you were to go a whole percent, then now we're going to be the most expensive in the region. And higher than even our neighbor in Palm Springs that has traditionally been the highest. So, you know, we already have a transit or a tax, it's a similar tax now, and the proposal here is to go for 0.5% with a sunset, which, as the city manager explained, I think you need to do just procedurally, but there may be a time where that sunset needs to be extended because some of these, well, pretty much all of these are ongoing costs that even if you put a sunset in 25 years, you would need to go. So I think that the committee was wise to settle in on the 0.5 cent that would match us with our neighbors and would address the immediate need. If for some reason down the road, you know, another council and community group decides that that's not enough and moving quickly enough, then I think that would be the opportunity to go higher. So I think that the proposal as written as the 0.5% to address these needs in the way that it's been spelled out is the more reasonable way to go at this point.
Thank you. Councilmember on that? Agree with Councilman Gregory?
Yes, Mayor. I believe that, of course, the need, even higher than 1 cent, is necessary. But we also have to evaluate what is actually feasible for the residents to actually accept and pass. So I think if we go any higher than half a cent, the possibilities of that measure passing are much lower. So that I believe that the 50 cent or half a cent is sufficient at this time, even though the need is greater.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I agree that I think, and the reason, I really want 1 full percent. I really want that. You know, we could use it. We could use it in a lot of great places. But that's the advantage of having the sunset, is as it sunsets and our economy is better, people are making higher wages, then being able to come back with maybe a higher tax then gives us an opportunity as opposed to having a forever half cent. So it kind of makes sense that that's a limited half cent, but knowing that when that expires, we have the opportunity to come again.
Okay. I wanted to put it out there, see what we said. And Charlie, you got direction on this?
I do, and we'll probably talk more about this as we go through our strategic planning, but I would expect the next steps would be similar to what I listed on that slide, putting some agreements in place related to some polling, some consulting services, and really working on ironing out the details of that agreement with the Desert Recreation District.
Thank you. And I as well would like to thank the committee that sat on this and came up with all this hard work. And thank you for being a part of Cathedral City. We're going to get that community center and we'll get rolling on it. So, all right, thank you. Item B, special events, fall 2023 recap of spring 2024. This item is presented for information, discussion, and direction only. And I believe we got Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Apologize for a little bit of a scruffy voice today, but I'll do my best. This is always a fun one to present to you all, so hopefully the energy from the PowerPoint will carry through a little bit. So wanted to recap some of the successes we've had in the fall. Thanks to you all as the City Council for your continued support of our Communications and Events Department. Wanted to start off with that, but wanted to recap some of what we've already done. I've taken some really great feedback doing this presentation now over a year. Kind of, you know, I think it was Councilmember Gregory brought up a great point of maybe consolidate to the things that the city is really more responsible for from a communication event standpoint, unless there's a dollar amount that's obviously worthy of mention. So I think I did try to fine tune it a little bit more based on your feedback to where we don't get into everything we support, because we'd be here for a couple of hours if we did that. But really some of the big ones that my department is leading. So I wanted to start, Coachella Valley's Battle in the Desert, which is produced by Jesus Gonzalez, an officer with our Cathedral City Police Department. The event sanctioned by USA Boxing, and that, if you remember the photo I sent you last year, is probably about 3/4 full of what that looks like. So we went up to about 1,000 attendees from 600. This was the record attendance for Battle in the Desert, and I think this one continues to grow. Had really good conversations with Jesus. I think we've got a date already on the calendar preliminarily that I know there was some issues last year with, are we going to reseed the grass during that time? And so we made some concessions to be able to make this happen. But there's definitely an audience for this event, and I think I've seen it firsthand the last couple of years. So once again, the plans would be to have it in the community amphitheater. It took place on Saturday, October 14th of last year, and obviously some of the proceeds generated go to local charities, and we've asked him to specify that in a little bit more, Boys and Girls Club, and I've got a list now that I think he kind of knows the drill with making sure that our city logo is represented as a sponsor and everything like that too. I think he did a great job. Halloween Spooktacular, this is a fun one. City of Cathedral City hosted our Spooktacular event. It was our 7th one on October 29th. Projected attendees about 3,500 plus, with a budget of about $4,000. 50,000 pieces I thought were going to be enough, but we ran out during the last hour, so we may have to talk to Michoacana about increasing that total to at least maybe 60,000 next year. Live music from DJ Shauna from Jacob's Way Productions, trick-or-treating throughout the day, as you know, food for purchase from Meester Zebra, who did a great job for second year, an opportunity for the kids to wear bicycles, and one of my favorite photos of Councilmember Gutierrez and the cart vendor that had kind of posted there. I thought that was a really cute costume. We had a lot of really creative costumes this year. And live stream blood bank, they kind of had a down year 2 years ago. People are still obviously getting out of COVID, but I was really happy to report a significant increase from their group. They were really happy with their presence at Halloween Spooktacular Spectacular and helping to promote their initiatives. They tied it into some ticket drawings and things like that for concerts. So I thought they did a better job working in unison with us too. And just wanted to show a little bit of a recap from a good story I thought NBC Palm Springs did on this event.
We're on track now, telling you about a number of events happening around the Coachella Valley this weekend, including the 7th annual Halloween Spooktacular in Cathedral City, a free event helping Coachella Valley residents get into the Halloween spirit a bit early. Our Tiani Jadaling was out at the event. She shares the details.
Music, trick-or-treating, and an opportunity to win free bicycles filled neighbors with excitement in downtown Cathedral City.
Hundreds of people enjoying 50,000 pieces of candy. We ran out of candy about 30 minutes to go with the event, so it's been a really great turnout just to see all these families come with incredible costumes and really have a great time.
And the highlight of the event, the multiple costume contests.
The costume contests with the kids are always the favorite. I love it. Everybody does. And so just to see all the creativity, we had so many really wonderful costumes. And so it's great to see all the kiddos having fun out here.
With the creativity for these costumes going above and beyond in an attempt to win free bicycles. Especially for contest winners like Azalina, who dressed up as Annabelle the doll.
Her mom came to me about August and asked me to build this box. She saw it on TikTok. I just went to Home Depot where doers get more done, and I bought all the material and I made it and put lights in it, and here she is.
And for Miranda and Valentina, who were dressed up as the Elegant Skull, better known as La Catrina and the Queen of Hearts.
My mom made it, and her make my makeup a lot.
With the city focusing in on one main goal.
To have a lot of fun. Enjoy Cathedral City. Come out, have a great time. Enjoy all the great partners that we have. Food from Mr. Zebra, all of our great vendors down the street, and just have a great time in celebrating this season with us.
Tiani Jadaling, NBC Palm Springs.
I really appreciated the commitment to character from that Annabelle doll. She was scary. I mean, she really kept it going throughout that entire, tried to make her laugh a couple of times. She wasn't going for it. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there was me, and I'm just glad that they got the chest up for my Batman costume. I was certainly an out of shape Batman, but did my best for the kids and shaved the beard to not scare them a little bit. But Palm Springs Pride Parade, one of those that we're really proud to support each year. The attendance, really 125,000 plus. Talking to event organizers, Rhonda Hart, recently, that number continues to go up, and really the trajectory is really, really great for this event. And we featured our City of Cathedral City contingent, which you can see there in our branded kind of Pride t-shirts. It was fortunate that we had really beautiful weather, because when I went with black, the city manager kind of warned me, he goes, black may be a little bit hot. And so I was thankful that we had good weather for everybody to enjoy. And the theme celebrated both the Cathedral City LGBT Days, which will be back March 8th to the 10th, giving an extra week for a breathing room between Taste of Jalisco and promotion and hopefully warmer weather. And also our balloon festival, which is, as you saw, I ran down and saw some of our friends from the Old Gays that were in the crowd supporting us, and got a little shout out for Cathedral City there. So. The 9th annual Cathedral City International Hot Air Balloon Festival. It's really cool and exciting that we're heading into our 10th year, so stay tuned for a lot more exciting announcements there. I think we've got a lot of really great stuff from a game plan standpoint to really roll out for 10 years. But our 9th annual was, I really felt like a well-oiled machine, and got back to kind of some of the great moments that this event has celebrated throughout the year. Last year we had some, or 2 years ago I should say, we had some issues with the weather and the wind, which you can't control. But this year I thought we had a really beautiful night for the Balloon Glow drone light show here in Cathedral City. It was great. Really proud of the fact that Visit Greater Palm Springs honored the Cathedral City Hot Air Balloon Festival with the Palm Award. It's very prestigious. The company we were in was very humbling, frankly, for visitor experience. We won that award back in October. And then we also received a matching grant, which you all fortunately blessed as a council. That was the second consecutive year for the Balloon Festival. Projected attendees were right back into that 20 to 25,000 range. Definitely up from 2022. Features hot air balloons from all over the world. As you've noticed, our International Hot Air Balloon Festival branding, and there's Councilmember Lamb standing in front of our branded balloon. It was really cool to be able to roll that out, and I think it looks fantastic. Looked really nice in the balloon glow too. As you can see it actually down there in the bottom corner as well. But Food Truck Fiesta was back. Drone light show. We're working on entertainment for enhanced experience for the 10th anniversary. We're really excited about that. Special Shape Sunday is a little bit of a bummer. The wind kind of took us out about 30 minutes into that event, but we still had some stormtroopers and Star Wars characters rolling around, but hopefully that'll be back up and running with some better weather next year. And then here is a kind of a cool story of getting up in the balloon for those who haven't experienced it or kind of see how cool it really is. And I thought NBC Palm Springs, another Tiani's getting a lot of play on this presentation, but I thought she did a really nice job going up with Justin Wilkinson, one of our lead pilots from Fantasy Balloon Flights.
And if you've ever wanted to ride in a hot air balloon, well, this weekend might be your chance. It's happening right in Cathedral City. Our Tiani Jadaling had the opportunity to ride in a hot air balloon this morning. She joins us now in studio with details from today. Tiani?
Tim, over 30 hot air balloons, balloon tether rides, and live music are just some of the highlights that'll be featured at this year's Cathedral City International Hot Air Balloon Festival.
It's the one time of the year where hot air balloons from all over the world fill the sky right here in the Coachella Valley.
It's really become a worldwide event. We've got multiple companies represented: Belgium, the UK, the Netherlands, and so it's really cool to see so many come in from out of the country to participate in this event, both pilots and attendees.
A 3-day festival and food truck fiesta, all starting Friday morning.
Friday will be our food truck fiesta, and it'll be activities in the amphitheater. $10 for adults, $5 for kids. But if you just want to come to the festival lawn, there's plenty of activities that are completely free that require no tickets.
Saturday's events include a balloon glow at Agua Caliente Casino Cathedral City, and Sundays, a breakfast and balloons event held at Big League Dreams. But as far as the pilots steering these hot air balloons, they're here for their own enjoyment.
I mean, the amusement parks, roller coasters, everything is really cool, but this is just a completely different feeling from that. We get people that are afraid of heights, afraid of falling, afraid of so many different things, and then they come up, and since it's so gentle and smooth, you feel almost nothing.
Not only is this hot air balloon festival an experience for all residents here in the Coachella Valley, but it's a competition amongst pilots as well.
Be a hare and hound, so if Justin was the hare, we'd be the hound following him. So he'll put a target out when he lands, and then you try and fly as low and close to the target as you can and drop a marker to the middle of it.
Overall, the pilots hope each attendee has a similar experience at this year's festival.
Just a childhood wonderment, I guess. Seeing all the colors in the sky, and after dark, we light up with the glows, and just real cool stuff.
Again, activities start Friday morning with the...
And if you've ever...
Stop it there, but really a lot of fun this year. It was cool to see kind of the pilot's perspective. It was a really great ad and promotion, frankly, for the Balloon Festival, and we're excited to enter our 10th year, and lots of exciting things planned for that. Snowfest at North Pole Village, another record-breaking attendance for the 2023 event. We had real snow, which was a huge hit, and train rides were a huge hit as well, so I think that went running all the way through the end of the night. First Saturday that we had moved to an all-day event for Snowfest since 2019, led by, in conjunction with Communications and Events, but also Joanne Kennan, our event organizer for 2023. Multiple Santa appearances in front of the tree, which I thought was great. I know I got a photo of Mark and Mayor and his wife, Rhonda, but also I know I saw some from Councilmember Gutierrez, one where you were jumping in the breezeway. I thought that was really funny. It was a great time, and hopefully you guys had a great time with kids. I know when I was walking out there 30 minutes early before start time, Mayor Carnevale already had a line of kids that were kind of tracking you down, so it's really cool. And I think, with this idea, talking in the planning stages, Santa photos can be really expensive and cost prohibitive, and so to be able to have more opportunities for the community to be able to have that opportunity to take a photo with Santa with your phone and not go through the whole process, we really would like to keep that going if we can. It was a success for sure. See the Grinch, I just thought all of our Cathedral City High School performers were just fantastic this year at the event. Puppet shows, and our Cathedral City Police and fire departments really did a great job with the story times with the kids and just seeing how much energy they put into it. I know that's a council priority to have more public safety appearances at these events, and they've been rock stars at all of them, so I really appreciate it. I think we've got the best Santa and Mrs. Claus. They're fantastic, with Greg and Laura Hunt Little from Visit Greater Palm Springs, and KSQ's Patrick Evans served as the MC. We'd love to have him back. He made a verbal commitment at the time of his life. He's a Cathedral City resident, which I think adds a nice little flair to that as well. So another little video recap for you of this event.
The North Pole Village at Snowfest is underway in Cathedral City. The city turned its Civic Center into a holiday festival. They even brought out tons of snow for families to play in, making the perfect snowballs. Cathedral City first responders took turns reading children's stories, while Cathedral City High School students held puppet shows in both English and Spanish. There were local organizations selling novelty items and raising money for valid causes. A big hit at the all-day event was the Polar Express train. There were plenty of people waiting to get on. The Cathedral City High School choir graced the stage singing holiday songs, and the children of the valley showed off their gingerbread making skills at the Elves Workshop. All of the holiday sets made for perfect photo ops, and it had some children thinking of their letter to Santa.
A Polaroid camera and Hello Kitty shoes. I asked for an $88 TV.
It reminds me of I don't know, just staying with family, having a good time and, have the birth of Jesus in your mind.
Christmas is a really good time of year is because you get time to spend with your family. You can open gifts and you can have a really good feast and watch Christmas movies with your family.
Very festive itinerary out there. This is the first time since before the pandemic the city has held the event on a Saturday. Santa Claus also made a stop at the festival and lit tonight's tree. We'll have a closer look at the festivities coming up at 10.
So a lot of fun, and I think a reminder, of why we do these events and why they're so special of the kids and the families that come out to be able to enjoy it with us. It's a lot of fun. So wanted to mention the Palm Springs International Film Festival, which just recently wrapped. I think this is really one of our greatest sponsorship opportunities. They do it well, and they really give us a lot of play with our Cathedral City logo. We had an ad that ran through multiple screenings throughout the run, 180 films, 74 countries, 48 premieres, more of which took place at the Mary Pickford this year, including the Family Day with Eva Longoria and Flamin' Hot. She was the director of the movie about the origin of the Flamin' Hot Cheetos, which was actually debuted at Palm Springs International Film Festival the year before. Talked to, we're still working on 2024 numbers, but had a great meeting with Ted Hain over at the Mary Pickford, and he said this was just one of the best events that they've had. And I think most of you all saw, I mean, during the daytime, we had more activity and foot traffic. I think the village has kind of helped bring it all together when we keep that up for the first week of the festival. But Ted was really pleased with the screenings and the increased revenue for Mary Pickford and our downtown area. So once again, Cathedral City was a sponsor supporting the Mary Pickford, and you saw some of our banners that were out in downtown. So that kind of recaps the fall and kind of moving into the spring with a lot of exciting things. Taste of Jalisco just being less than 2 weeks away, February 2nd through the 4th, not this weekend, but next weekend. Record attendance in 2023, really terrific, particularly the Sunday event, I think surprised all of us. I think a few years ago we had done it Super Bowl Sunday, and that was crickets, so we kind of moved it out of that window. So I just had a great time. This is really, I think, in the fall, we've got the Balloon Festival, and the Taste of Jalisco is really becoming a close second from attendance and generated interest. And so I'm sure you've seen a lot of the marketing materials. They've been doing a great job, SoundSkills, pushing this event with tequila tastings, a craft vendor market, Mexican cuisine, and a Sunday-only car show. But I think the cool stuff that's being added this year is, we've seen a lot of interest in Lucha Libre, and that's selling really well. To be able to have that as part of the festivities this year, I think will be a lot of fun. Ferris wheel, the carnival will be enhanced. So we're really, really excited about that. And Nacho Bustillos will be doing his after show Friday night. I don't think it was a component last year, so we're happy to bring that back this year. But just great folklorico performances throughout the day. We'll do the flag raising with Mayor Carnevale to launch that event February 2nd through the 4th. So we're really excited about that. Really, really been a labor of love, and I think I didn't realize how much fun I would have putting this one together. But the Tastes and Sounds of Cathedral City, I think, is going to be a really great way to have weekly entertainment in the amphitheater. And we're still finalizing the food lineup, but we're really, really close. I think tomorrow we'll be sending out a release with all of our music acts. Some of them have a really great built-in following, which I think is really exciting. But I think this is really going to show people what the amphitheater has to offer from a view standpoint when the weather's really nice. February 13th to April 9th, we've got one off week there after LGBT Days on March 12th, but the rest of it will have programming. And then, kind of taking this task on, making sure that we have a mixture of professional acts, but also supporting our local students as well. But wanted to go ahead and debut the February lineup here. Free admission, we'll have food available for purchase, but the Cathedral City Jazz Band and Choir will be kicking things off. And they've got their own night, 13th and the 20th, so we're excited to have that. And then Radio Ready, which was our headliner for Balloon Festival this past year. I thought they were just fantastic to be able to get them back. I'll go ahead and throw a few that have already confirmed. We've got hard dates. The Dreamboats will be a part of it, one of our favorites, and they do a great job. Giselle Wu and the Night Owls, which has been a part of our festivities before, the Balloon Festival, just to name a few. But we're really excited, trying to make sure we have a diverse lineup, and then working on a kickoff party to kind of lead into LGBT Days that week too. So stay tuned for more details and a lot of fun, but this is coming together really nicely, and I'm excited to hopefully showcase the amphitheater in a big way. Marionette Collegiate Classic, really a minimal investment on our part other than the city provides teams and guests with branded swag bags through our environmental fund. We also help with supporting the marketing efforts. But this, when I went to my first one last year, tagged along with a lot of you all to that when we got to go down the line with UCLA's softball team. It was a lot of fun. This is just a great event and brings thousands of people to Big League Dreams Cathedral City, which is a great venue for this. But projected attendance is about 33,000, but it's increased every year. And hopefully we'll have our mayor and council participating again in that opening day pitch ceremony, because that was a lot of fun for the event, which is February 22nd through the 25th.
Ryan?
Yes.
Is that a superstar in the middle, in the center of the picture?
Can neither confirm nor deny. There's our council member Lamb in the middle there. Yeah. Yes. She did nail the first pitch. I do remember that. I think it was a good first pitch for sure. So.
I need to get some pitching.
Yeah. Christina Burton on staff. She's a ringer. She's the softball expert. She worked with Councilmember Lamb, and I'm sure she'll be providing that assistance to you too, Mayor, if you want it.
I have a quick question for you.
Yes, absolutely.
While we're doing questions, this is a very important one. Now, those who are watching may not know that I'm a very competitive person.
Yes.
I challenge you all to poker. But in the meantime, what is a tequila competition?
There will be a tequila tasting. We're working on finalizing the details with a full list of judges, which hopefully our mayor will be joining us as part of that. And so it's at 6 o'clock, I believe, on Friday night before the after party over at the Terraza in Agua Caliente
Well, I
Casino.
don't wish anything bad to happen to him, but if he's not available that night, I'm happy to step in.
So very, very excited for that. And I think we had done that 2 years ago, and it had been a really popular component of Taste of Jalisco, and kind of got away from us last year. So I kind of offered to bring that back, and Sound Skills agreed. And so really showcase a lot of different tequila tastings. So it should be a lot of fun. California's first Pride of the Year, Cathedral City LGBT Days, March 8th through the 10th, presented by Agua Caliente Casinos. And I really want to give Agua Caliente Casinos credit. They've enhanced their commitments to both LGBT Days and Taste of Jalisco in a big way this year. And we're really, really appreciative to be able to have more components at Agua Caliente Casinos, Cathedral City. River Butcher, the comedian, really, really funny stuff. I think we're getting them just on the kind of cusp of really breaking out, which is always kind of nice to have. And so we'll hopefully be able to enjoy that together. 2023 saw record attendance for the bed races. This event has changed a lot over the years, so kind of having year-to-year changes for a lot of the components, particularly Friday and Saturday. But the bed races were a really big hit this past year. We had great weather, fortunately. Stay tuned for more details. There's just a little save the date teaser, but we'll be going to work on this as we continue ongoing work, but we'll be really pushing a lot of promotions in the days and weeks ahead, so stay tuned. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions or feedback.
I just wanted to share, and I'm sure everybody agrees, thank you so much for all of the fun you bring to Cathedral City.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mayor Pro Tem.
It's really changed a lot in the last 10 years. I know you haven't been here the whole time, but you know, with Chris before you and you, we've grown, we've evolved, we're in a great place, and thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate it. And like you said, there's been a foundational kind of legacy to build off of, which you'd always prefer. And it's an honor to take that task and keep doing it the right way. So.
You know, I got to just thank you for that presentation. To see those children speak and smile and $88 TVs and have fun with families. You don't really see that when you're there. There's so much going on, but to capture that on film, Ryan, that is just, it makes my heart really feel good, because giving back to the community is what it's about too. I mean, we ask a lot from them, so giving back sure makes this council and staff here.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your work too as well.
Thank you.
City Clerk, do we have anyone to speak?
So I don't have any request to speak forms for this item, but if you are a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment on this item, please raise your hand.
No. This presentation, only for discussion and direction, only there is no formal action. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, forgot a bunch.
Okay.
Good time. Nap time? Can we have a little nappy?